Max, would you say that Blizzard has an ego issue, doubling down on things that don't work? Well, an ego issue would mean like they talk about it internally and they feel like they have something that isn't working and everyone's telling this one person or a group of people that isn't working, and this one person's like, well, this was my idea and it's gonna work. And I've spoken to a lot of people at Blizzard, higher up developers and WoW. I don't get that impression from them at all. They seem like very logical, reasonable people that if something was really bad and it was coming to them, I cannot imagine the people that I've met talking about that game egoing something into the game. Is it possible? Certainly, but I think maybe where that gets confused is making the best game isn't exactly doing what your community wants. Like some of the best games ever, the people who are making it, not like MMOs or whatever, just like completely ignore their audience and they just literally make something they think is cool and then it happens to be amazing and people love it. And they didn't get to that point by purely listening to every single bit of feedback that someone gave them. They just made something really sick. So like as a game developer, you're trying to create a cool game and trying to show a lot of cool things you love right now, you wouldn't have known you loved until they were implemented into the game, you know? Now, there's been a lot of stuff they've implemented was bad, but like you kind of have to go out on a limb and make something to have something new and cool added. And that means, and every cool thing they've ever enabled or put into the game, they had people telling them it was shit and don't do this. I like the way I play the game. I don't need this. And then it ends up being one of the best parts of the game or something. But like whether they're implementing something bad or good, the reaction is I fucking hate this and remove it. There's going to be some of that no matter what. So they're kind of conditioned to making what they think is good. It's their job to do that, obviously including community feedback and stuff. And then sometimes you just have to kind of send it and people maybe won't initially like it, but it'll end up being great, right? I think there's a really fine line there and it's probably really hard to play around that. And sometimes they create something that sucks and we tell them it sucks and it does suck, and then you'd hate, no one wants that to happen, right? No one. But like the idea that it's ego, like the way you specifically put it, where there's all, you push all of that aside and like it's pretty obvious something is bad, but there's just literally an ego thing, like we're right and they're wrong. At least I can tell you just my perspective. Like I've from speaking with them, I could not possibly imagine those people having that conversation. It just doesn't sound, they don't come off that way. There's actually been a few times I think, so one moment where I felt there was ego was Covenants, and it wasn't when they made Covenants. It wasn't when they made Covenants. It was when they removed them. And they had a post and it was like, yeah, so we're removing the Covenant restriction. And then they threw in a little, we don't think you would have interacted with the intro of Shadowlands the same had they not been there. Basically saying, we're removing them now, but it was right that we had them in the first place. And I think I just like vehemently disagreed with that. And that seemed like an ego thing for sure. So maybe there's some of that. But I do think there's less than, like if you talk about how much, you know, the worst person you know, WoW player, like they look at they just brush every single good thing Blizzard makes under the rug and they don't get any credit for it. And then everything they do is bad is the worst thing ever because they just fucking hate them, right? Like when I hear the issue with that statement of like, do you think Blizzard oftentimes has too much ego? I just picture that person in my head and I'm like, there might be some truth to it, but I know the way that person got to that conclusion was through the issue is on them, you know, like what they've built up this people who make video games in their mind as this like enemy, you know, that's where that comes from for them. So you could have a reasonable take about that, but a lot of people that type that are not coming from a reasonable place. So it's hard to talk about exactly. I think you missed the part where everyone quit Shadowlands because of Covenant restrictions. Do you think Covenants were a good friction in the game, part of meting the top end? The one thing that's weird for me with Covenants that I still don't really understand this exactly is it was all everyone was complaining about. And it was the worst, whatever. And then like at a certain point in Shadowlands, they made Covenants way better. They made them swappable. They improved them a lot. And if you were to ask anyone right now what their favorite part of Shadowlands was, you're going to get one answer. And it was Season 1. When Covenants were at their absolute worst and there was still conduit energy and everyone was mad about everything. But they'll just tell you that was still their favorite part of the expansion. So now that could have been because that was like, it had one of the greatest raids ever. And, you know, it was... people were everyone's friends were playing and this game is way more fun when you have your friends. So like even if the actual content wasn't as good, because more people were playing it, it made the game better, right? There's so many things like that, but I just find that really interesting. Same thing with Diablo. Like I feel weird saying Diablo to me was a great game, Diablo 4. I'm just like, I don't know, I see so many problems with it. I have so many issues with where the game has gone and all that stuff. And then I think that I played Diablo all day, every day for more than a month when it came out. And killing Lilith on multiple classes was one of the most challenging and one of the most fun experiences I've ever had in gaming. And I loved every second of that month I no-lifed that game when it came out. And if you were to ask me, I would tell you the game is bad or like not good. And I have trouble like computing that in my brain, because if I were to play any game, I'm playing Death Stranding right now off stream, fucking love that game. It makes no sense why that game is good, but fucking amazing game. I play other games. If I buy any game and I can play it off stream or on stream, whatever, and I no life it for a month, there's no way my opinion of that game would be this game is bad. I would tell you this is one of the most fun times I've ever had in gaming. Like, that's about as long as I grinded Lost Ark. Love that game. Every other game that has made me love it so much I've no lifed it for a month, I love those games. Diablo did that for me, but it's like Diablo bad. That makes no sense. It like literally doesn't make sense. Like, how does that make sense? I guess the expectations are different. Like, I don't know. It just still doesn't make sense. Like, I objectively really enjoyed my time in that game.